It can't be bargained with. It can't be reasoned with. It doesn't feel pity or remorse or fear. And it absolutely will not stop. Ever. Until you are dead.
What's up, my bud smokers and movie lovers, and welcome to another episode of 5 on It. You already know what we do here. We smoke doobies, but our most important duty is to review those movies. We are your hosts. I am Francisco. He is Sir Fraser. And on today's episode, a very good episode, we are taking it back to 1984, an absolute banger. We are talking James Cameron, The Terminator. But before we dive into that, don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, do all that other stuff with your bud smokers and fellow movie lovers. Sir Fraser, tell the people what you're smoking on.
Man, so we're back at it again, man, with Durbon Poison. This is a cannabis-infused blunt. It's a sativa, courtesy of Dougie. This is one we've been back to a couple times, man. I really enjoy this. It's 2.7 grams is what it says. So, you know, pretty strong weed, man. I've been a fan of Durbon Poison, from the pens to the flower. It's a good one. So definitely check that out.
It's a classic.
Yes, sir. Hey, got him already. So summary for this movie, for those of you who haven't seen it, FYI, there will be spoilers. So the summary for this is: a cyborg assassin from the future attempts to find and kill a young woman who is destined to give birth to a warrior who will lead a resistance to save humankind from extinction. Man, this is a sci-fi classic. I mean, this is something that James Cameron has self-described as tech noir. I think it definitely has noir aspects to it. Also, borrows a bit from the horror genre in a way that I think it makes it unique compared to some of the subsequent movies. But this one's, you know, directed and co-written by the man, the legend, James Cameron. This son of a bitch does nothing but make box office hits.
You know, like, that was actually kind of surprising to me, because this is like one of the first times in a long time that I've watched Terminator like front to back. Mm-hmm. And I am more of a T2 fan, but I love Terminator. Absolutely. But I was actually kind of like taken back for a minute. I kind of forgot that James Cameron actually did this one, because like I was thinking like Alien, how he did the second one. Ridley Scott did the first one. I always thought that he did the second one and somebody else did the first one for some reason. I don't know. You know, I don't know why. I just associated it with for somebody else. I mean, obviously it has a different tone to it.
Exactly.
Terminator has a definite horror feel from the moment that Arnold Cyborg
appears on screen.
What's the actual T what?
I believe it's a T-101.
T-101?
Yeah.
When that gets sent back and he gets the clothes from the people.
Oh man, Bill Paxton.
Bro, I was actually going to ask you that. I was going to be like, who is the actor at the beginning? But you know, that was another dude too.
I know Bill Paxton. I recognize the other actor. You know, funny enough, I recognize him because he played Shao Kahn in Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Dude, that's the only role I remember him in.
You know, he was Buffalo Bill in Joe Dirt.
Oh, I did not. Bro, my God. My guy brought out Joe Dirt, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, Brian Thompson, man.
That's hilarious.
Dude, I've never even recognized either of those two guys. I mean, granted, it is a small role, but as soon as like he gets sent back, grabs the clothes, he rips out that dude's fucking heart. And I mean, it's not like over the top or anything like that, but you see the blood all over his arm and everything.
Fuck you, asshole.
And so that just kind of sets you up that this is going to be a very different tone if you're used to the Terminator 2.
Okay. I got you.
If you've only seen T2 and you try to go back to watch the first one, it's definitely a switch in genres.
No, I definitely get that. I was always a little bit mixed up on the T800 versus the 101 model. I believe the difference was that the 800 was the actual metallic exoskeleton, and the 101 I thought actually had the human flesh applied to it, the realistic looking human flesh. Because remember, Kyle says he's talking to Sarah about the future, about his time, and how the older models before they had the more realistic flesh they had rubber, and they were very easy to pick off because of that.
Yeah.
Something that's also really haunting and chilling, of the actual exoskeleton, everything is metallic except the teeth. And so you're like, how do they get those human teeth?
I don't know.
I mean, that's dark. That's dark as fuck when you think about it.
I imagine, man.
But just going back to the background of this movie and just setting the stage. I mean, this movie stars Arnold Schwarzenegger, Linda Hamilton. Those probably are the two biggest actors for this one. But also Michael Biehn, right? I think how you pronounce his name.
I think that's how you pronounce it. If you're mispronouncing it.
He's definitely worked with Cameron. He went on to work with Cameron for Aliens. And one big shout out we have to give is Stan Winston, who was the special makeup effects artist. He partnered with Cameron again for Terminator 2, as well as Aliens, Aliens is what led to his first Academy Award for visual best effects. Best visual effects. One I think is really worth kind of diving in a little bit on the background of this movie, because it is so fascinating. Conceptually, this movie came about from a nightmare that James Cameron had. He had just finished wrapping up Piranha 2, which was a fucking dumpster fire. He had a really horrible experience in that movie, and he was kind of really at rock bottom, and he had this really vivid dream of this metallic, like the cyborg, but it was only from the torso up, who had like human flesh kind of plastered onto the metallic skull, was crawling off after him with a knife. Jesus. And he woke up and he really just went to work and like kind of sketching this out and kind of creating like essentially like a little bit of a rough storyline or outline of this concept that he had. Dude calls his agent, and his agent's like, I don't know, man. This, I don't think this is it. I think we need to focus elsewhere. And Cameron's like, fuck you, you're fired. This like literally sent him into a rage, and he ends up, getting a new agent and, going to work and really trying to execute this vision, creates the script. So one thing that I did read, I don't know if you heard about this, but originally Cameron envisioned not one, but two Terminators being sent back after her. And one of them was supposed to be the liquid metal one that we then get in Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Yeah. And he abandoned that idea just because he didn't believe the special effects had caught up with the vision. I mean, and this has been something that has surfaced with the Avatar franchise. He had that concept, but technology wasn't at the point. And good on him, because he knew what the fuck he was talking about. Yeah. He postponed for both of those projects, and it yielded huge results. I mean,
even when you watch T2 to this day, the scenes with the T1000 are still hold up tremendously. From the time like when he gets like frozen, and then he gets like all like the pieces like burst and everything like that, but then it all turns into liquid and it starts just like
forming again.
Yeah,
that's a great scene,
dude. All that still holds up. You can still see like the reflections like too, and like the goo, whatever you want to call it.
The liquid metal.
Yeah. Dude, the special effects with the T1000 is just amazing.
I mean, another great scene is when they're at the mental health facility, asylum, or whatever it was, and they're rescuing Sarah Connor, and when the T1000 walks through the bars. Yeah. I mean, that's another iconic scene. One thing we definitely got to call out about this movie, there's a number of noteworthy inspirations, including Walter Hill's 1978 The Driver, which I've never seen. Have you seen that one? I'm totally down. It looks really interesting. I know that was an influence on the Ryan Gosling movie that came out,
Drive.
Drive, like maybe was it 10 years ago, over 10 years ago? So that was an influence. George Miller's The Road Warrior, and also John Carpenter's Halloween. And I got to say, the Carpenter influence was very clear to me, especially when in the tech noir scene where we see Arnold sit up in a very Michael Myers type of way, even the way that he was, the way he was moving was a little bit over, like just deliberately to be kind of very robotic. And I know that Arnold was doing research and reading Westworld, took like some inspiration in terms of like the bodily movement from Westworld.
You can also
the OG one.
You can also take just like his. I mean, granted, like he does like move a little quicker than Michael Myers does, but just having like that stoic face. I mean, he's supposed to be a robot, so like just taking also that inspiration from Michael Myers, just not having any facial expression, just being stone faced, lasered in on his.
Yeah.
I mean, that's also brings me to like a highlight of the movie is when like Kyle Reese is always explaining the Terminator to whether it's to Linda in the car, and he's just like, he won't bargain with you, he doesn't reason with you. And then like he has another scene when like they're watching him on the at the precinct
when they're interviewing.
And he's just like,
Skynet knew almost nothing about Connor's mother, her full name, where she lived. They just knew the city. The Terminator was just being systematic.
Well, let's go back to one other thing.
Look, you have heard enough. I have answered your questions. Now I have to see Sarah Connor.
I'm afraid that's not up to me.
Why am I talking to you?
Because I
Who is
don't-
an authority here?
Please, listen.
Shut up! You still don't get it, do you? He'll find her. That's what he does. That's all he does. You can't stop him. He'll wait for you, reach down her throat, and pull her fucking heart out.
Doug.
Let go of me!
like, bro, that was a highlight easily. His performance, at least in like those two moments, just really selling the fact of the impending doom of Arnold coming through.
One thing I do want to say about that, just to piggyback back off of those two scenes that you mentioned, is something that I noted as well, which is I love the writing in this movie because it does exposition in a really effective way, because they set the stage right at the very beginning about a nuclear, essentially a nuclear holocaust and the rise of these machines. And we get this really bleak view of what this world looks like before we jump back to the present. But a lot of what we learn about the world is we're learning alongside the other characters in the present, right? Whether it's Sarah Connor's or the police during that interrogation scene. And I thought that writing, because sometimes people say, oh, well, there's too much exposition. But I think in this situation where you have someone who's transplanted out of their time into the current, I think that it actually worked really well because he's trying to. It's essential to the story that Sarah understands.
Yeah.
What's coming and why he's back there to protect her. And she has that great line. She's like, why me? Why does it want me? And again, like the writing there, I think was super effective and like helping us understand this really, this apocalyptic future.
Yeah, I think the exposition is definitely needed, but it's just depending on how well you do it to make it not boring or anything like that. And they definitely make it not boring. And even when you get some exposition, even if people want to be nitpicky and try to say like even those parts maybe get a little bit long in the tooth, it doesn't follow too much longer after that when fucking the Terminator comes plowing through. Whether it's the cop car and he's just like kind of cruising through. And I guess that might be a little bit clever writing when it's like, as soon as they decide to like come out, of course, Arnold is right behind them in the cop car. And then that's when they're off to the races again from there. Yeah. Or then when, God, where was that? Another moment when he just, at the precinct. When even the fucking, the cop is just like, there's 30 cops here, so you're pretty much good. I'm like, thank you for telling us the body count that's about to happen. Yeah. And Arnold is right around the corner.
Well, yeah, I mean, one thing that, speaking of Arnold, something that I think is really fun to kind of, or worth thinking about as far as just the behind the scenes as they were, preparing to make this movie. is that, you know, a few different actors were approached for the role of Terminator. Some of these might shock you. Stallone, Mel Gibson, Harrison Ford, even Lance Henriksen, who was recast as a detective. He was initially considered for this role. And it was rumored, I don't know if this is true because I've seen conflicting things, but O.J. Simpson was reportedly or rumored to be considered for this role.
He was a different Terminator.
Jesus. You know what was really interesting, though, is that Arnold Schwarzenegger wasn't Cameron's first pick. He actually won him over during that conversation where he first met Arnold. And he's like, God, man, this is him. This is the Terminator. And it's worth contextualizing where Arnold was in his career at that time. He'd just done Conan. He retired from bodybuilding as the greatest bodybuilder ever at that point, arguably still to this day. And he, you know, while his stature in the bodybuilding world was cemented, he was still working to kind of establish himself in Hollywood, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah.
And this came across his plate, and, you know, it was an opportunity to play an antagonist. And, you know, he was open to it, but he didn't promote it very much. I think that there was some concern that it could be it could be a flop. People were thinking, oh, this is just going to be another B movie.
Yeah.
Orion notoriously didn't fucking give them much of a budget in terms of promotion. And boy, what like this just goes to show you, man. When these, like, you really, it's like you can't trust these suits.
Yeah.
Trust like these guys to realize their vision and get the fuck out of their way.
Yeah.
Because y'all didn't know what the fuck y'all were talking to. Arnold's own agent was like, I don't know if we should do this. And thank God Arnold was like, yo, let's try this. I want to see this through.
Dude, I mean, it was the beginning of a mega franchise right now. I mean, granted, the movies since T1 to T2 have been, you can say, whether it's par, subpar or not, I mean, this has catapulted a franchise nonetheless.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, whether it's like the merch or the video games, I mean, the Terminator as iconic in cinema and just in pop culture.
I mean, to your point, not only, like, we're talking about the merch, we're talking about the video games, we're talking about the movie, and then we're also talking about, like, the cultural impact in terms of how we think about AI and technology. Mm-hmm. Like, Skynet cast a huge shadow in terms of how, it's certainly at that time, but I think it's probably even more amplified now, what this technology means as it relates to humanity and how, like, we relate to each other and what our future looks like, right? Mm-hmm. I think this movie also touches on that fear of nuclear war, right? Because that's something that was really prevalent during the Cold War. Yeah. You know, so I mean, I think those themes of, like, survival and technology was a really something that was really strong. Something that is fascinating that I read. So, because of the filming schedule was so close to Conan 2, the director of Conan 2 was adamant about having Arnold only focused on this movie, right? So that pushed the actual filming of Terminator back by almost a year. Ooh, and shit. Dig this, in that year, guess what 2 scripts fucking Cameron works on?
Which ones?
He produces a first draft of Rambo 2 and the Aliens fucking screenplay.
Hold up, James Cameron wrote Rambo 2?
Yeah, he wrote the first draft of it.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn,
I had no idea.
I guess I got to go. I've never seen any of the Rambo movies.
Me neither. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I just know. I mean, they're iconic. I know of them, but I've never seen them.
Maybe we'll have to throw that on the list then.
I mean, I'll be down.
I mean, if JC's got his fingers in it, I guess I gotta check it out.
Crazy. In a year, he turns out 2 of those scripts.
Yeah.
And here's the stipulation, though. This was what was crazy. Fox said to him, we'll let you direct this, because he wanted to direct this, just like he wanted to direct Terminator. Fox said to him, we'll let you direct this if Terminator is successful. And oh boy, was it. The rest is fucking history.
I mean, when you look at the, like you mentioned with the budget was in the single digits. They weren't even given over $10 million. And it made, how much did it say it made? Around like 78?
Damn near 80 million.
And what year did it come out?
84.
I mean, you can get into like the inflation, all that type of stuff, but making almost $100 million back then, I'm sure was, especially on a less than $10 million budget. I mean, that's insane.
I mean, obviously, it's not his best work in my opinion, but it's among them.
I mean, his best
It's
work is
definitely among them.
his best work is still yet to come.
Well, I mean,
with James Cameron, but I mean, if the Terminator is like on like the back end of like I guess like the movies that you're doing, like your other movies are held in higher regard. I mean, Terminator is still fucking great. I mean, it's still like critically acclaimed.
Let me be clear. I think it's at minimum top 3. I was, when I was saying best, I misspoke there. I wasn't to say best. It's not his highest grossing, is what I meant to say. But that's not to say it's not his best. That's what I actually meant to say, because I think it's at minimum top 3, and I think
For James Cameron movies?
Oh yeah, for me personally, but I think it's between T2, this, and Aliens.
No Titanic?
I got I listen. I saw Titanic in the theater. I remember liking it when I saw it. But it doesn't it doesn't hit like these.
I do remember seeing Titanic in theaters.
Did you like it?
But also I remember getting the VHS where my parents getting the VHS, and it was broken into 2 tapes.
Double VHS.
Yeah, dude. The second tape is, I mean, I don't really want to fuck with the first tape because that's building up the love story and all that stuff. You can miss me with all that stuff. But the second tape though is fire. Once like you hit that iceberg, shit gets popping from there. I got to give it to him on that end. But yeah, I mean, of course, Titanic is fine. I mean, I'd actually watch it again.
True Lies is fun too.
Because Terminator 2, I do like Terminator 2 better than Terminator, so that would be in the top 3. I think Aliens will be up there. I'm not a big Avatar dude.
The first one is
like, I don't got nothing against the movies or anything too much. They just like, visually they're spectacular, but
yeah, they're good, but they're not his best. The Abyss is good. I haven't seen that in a long time.
It might be a battle between True Lies and Terminator for like that third spot.
Okay. True Lies is such a fun action movie.
It's fun. Yeah.
Something where we're talking about the filmography of Cameron, just in the context of Terminator 1 and actually the entire franchise. This movie is really lean. This is a movie Bill clocks in at 107 minutes, and it's the shortest movie in this franchise. And let me tell you something. There's not a moment wasted in this movie to me. I think that this movie is dark, both tonally as well as the lighting, because most of the filming was at night. It's a very bleak movie, and I think it also relies to the point earlier about his Carpenter's Halloween being an influence. It also borrows from the slasher genre. This movie is just I think where it outshines Terminator 2 for me personally is I like that it has more of a grittier feel to it. It's not as polished, and it also leans more into the horror. And I also think as far as it's tough because I think the emotional ride, the emotional roller coaster of the end of this movie and the actual chase as she is escaping him, the torso of the Terminator, to me, like emotionally, that scene was very impactful in a similar way that the end of T2 was. It was just a different kind of emotion that it elicited. Especially with him dying and how sentimental that was.
In T2,
that shit felt like Old Yeller. I was fucking like tearing up.
Once the thumb goes down into the
and then the screen goes black.
Oh, bro, it was definitely
you're crying.
It definitely hit when I was a lot younger. I mean, it still hits to this day. I mean, granted, it hit me a lot harder when I was younger, but seeing how like the chase goes down in the Terminator from from him like crashing like not the SUV but the semi truck, and then you see him kind of walking out, and then he just falls over, and then Kyle Reese and then Sarah, they're reunited, and you think everything's good, but then he comes popping out. And granted, like right here, like the CGI at some parts you could tell it's kind of green screeny a bit. It doesn't really take you too much out of the story or any of the visuals too much at all. I mean, it's 1984, so you got to give him a little bit of a leeway.
Yeah.
But he's coming through, and then it's just like, then he gets hacked in half from like the explosion and all that type of stuff, and he's still coming for it. It's like, bro, this, like I say, you go back to Kyle Reese saying like, this thing will not fucking stop. And
until you are dead.
Yeah, until you are dead. And it's like it grabs her by the ankle, or it's like trying to get to her. Ultimately, it gets fucking crushed. But it's like that whole chase scene, even when you're talking about like the runtime, I totally agree with you and everything. There's not a minute wasted. Even when you could get into some of the exposition and stuff, to me, you need some of that for the story.
Oh, yeah.
You need to feel like where they're going, like, because you're going back in time and everything. So you need to see exactly what his future is, or what his present is, and seeing like what the potential future could be and everything like that. So you're just seeing exactly what they're fighting for in terms of like,
what they're up against.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, but as soon as you might think it's like, oh, I mean, is this getting too long, quote unquote, for some people? The Terminator comes in, and you're given like a great chase scene, whether it's in the cop cars or when they're in the semi truck.
Oh, the chase scenes are great in this movie.
Yeah, they're fucking dude. I mean, and one thing that I think it will edge Terminator 2, just because it did it first, I have to give it the score. Because the iconic score, it starts in the Terminator. I mean, granted, they do a little modulation and stuff like that to like remix it up just a little bit for T2, but it's pretty much the same thing. And even when I'll just call it the Terminator theme, it's like that heartbeat, that little dum 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 dum.
Oh yeah.
Dum, dum. Yeah. When you start hearing that, you're like, oh, it's like the Jason shit. When you start hearing that Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
When you start hearing that, you're like,
you already know something's going on.
Yeah, it's telling the viewers like he's around the fucking corner.
Yeah.
Better watch out, bitch.
Well, to your point about the score for this movie, Brad Fiedel, I believe that's how you pronounce his name, did the score for Terminator, and he would go on to work with Cameron on Terminator 2. To your point about the score for that one, as well as True Lies, and also fun fact about him, Fiedel, he played keyboards for Hall & Oates in the 70s.
Really?
Yeah. I was really curious about this because, I mean, to your point, like this soundtrack is very iconic.
Yeah.
It's almost, I mean, I would say it's like one of the most iconic, certainly sci-fi soundtracks that I can think of. I mean, I don't, you know what I mean? I mean, for me, it definitely is unique. Something that I did want to call out about this movie that I think is really central to like just the plot and the way time travel works in this movie is that this really plays into the bootstrap paradox. This is like this hypothetical time travel paradox where the past and the present are constantly feeding each other in a continuous and infinite loop. And this really comes into play as this movie unfolds, where we learn that Kyle becomes John Connor's father. And the mind fuck that is. Yeah. Like, one of the really cool details that I loved about this movie, and we are going to jump around a bit just because, this is a movie. This movie has been out 40 years, so definitely this is one of the reasons we decided to review this. This is the 40. I know we're just coming up on the 40-year anniversary of the release of this movie. But one of the details that I really loved was, as we're getting flashbacks from Reese's perspective, which in of itself was really effective, both in terms of showing us his PTSD, like when he's sleeping in the car before he even meets Sarah, it's the lights that kind of trigger that PTSD, but also when he is describing his time and, in the future, and we see that photo of Sarah that John gave him, right? And it's kind of like, okay, well, why did he get this photo? Why did he give him this photo?
Yeah.
And that's how like he fell in love with Sarah, who's the leader of John Connor, who essentially is mankind's savior.
He leads the resistance.
Yeah, he led the resistance. But that comes full circle with that photo, even though it was destroyed because of a Terminator in the past, in the future. That photo comes into play at the very end when, Sarah, now pregnant, gets her photo taken, and it's the photo that she gives John, who gives it to his father, Reese.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really cool detail, the way that they loop back to that at the very end.
Oh yeah, I think that's a perfect way how to cap the movie at the end of it.
Yeah.
What thing though was kind of weird though is like visually, it almost like to me like when you see her driving off in the mountains and all that type of shit, it looks like it's a postcard.
It didn't look real, but I think that actually was real.
I know that, which is like so strange. It's just like visually to me, just my eyeballs, like when I see that, I'm like, it looks like they just put like a postcard on there somehow digitally.
Yeah.
And like you just see the moving car driving off. I'm like, it looks kind of odd, but it is a great way to end it with like you see the picture and everything kind of comes full circle and all that.
And then you hear her talking about, what to tell him, as it relates to his dad and how it can drive him insane. I mean, trying to decide whether or not to send his father, who he's older than, back to the past. Yeah, I mean that paradox. I mean, going back to the bootstrap paradox, this is just like crazy because the speech. I mean, especially when you think about this, right? The speech that John tells Reese to give Sarah, that's actually his speech. It's like, yo, like who came up with it? It's
What the fuck is happening right now?
you know what I mean? Like that kind of loop of just thinking like how crazy is that as a story point? Like your son sends you back in time to protect your mother
And to make sure I'm born too.
and make sure you're born. And it's just like,
Well, like
because remember he says like John never talked about his dad. Remember Reese says that to Connor, to Sarah. I think when they're under the bridge and they're they're like under that tunnel, and he's like, oh yeah, he never talked much about his dad, and they're just like, huh.
I think I know why. But obviously, she doesn't tell too much about him because that's just gonna potentially disrupt the future and all that on the tapes. Because even in T2, I don't think she doesn't really say anything about it, or he doesn't say, because like she ends up getting locked up, and now he's just stealing money from ATMs.
Yeah.
Another highlight of this movie though is the bathroom scene.
Oh yeah, when he's removing the eye.
Man, when I saw this when I was like a lot younger, that scene fucking scared the shit out of me, man. It looks more real and everything. And so like when he's just digging in his eye, he takes that shit out, bro. That when you talk about like a horror movie and everything like that, it's like visuals like that is exactly what it's like, a horror movie for me. It's just like crazy ass, like horrifying visuals. And even when you see the eye and everything like that, like his robot eye, bro, then he grabs the shades and he puts those on. It's like, bro, just when you thought this dude couldn't look any fucking cooler and everything like that, and then he grabs like his guns, he's hiding underneath the mattress. But that whole scene, like granted, like nowadays, watching it now currently, doesn't hold up like great. You could definitely tell where the prosthetics are, and
animatronics.
Like yeah, exactly. And you could tell where like the switch comes in, like especially when he's putting the shades on.
Oh yeah,
because
that's clear as day.
Yeah, it looks very robotic and everything like that. But then like, it switches to like to real Arnold and everything like that. And and he gives one little hair check.
So, okay, there's two things I want to say about that scene because it was a highlight for me as well. And yes, it does look dated, but it never takes me out of the moment, despite that. No. I'm still very much in the moment. I'm still very much intrigued and looking at the detail of the actual eye and whatnot. But I thought it was very interesting once he puts the glasses on after he's removed the human eye and he's like fixing his hair. I thought that was very interesting, right? Because you think about it, this is a cyborg, right? And yet, despite the fact that it's a cyborg, it's been like the human vanity has almost been programmed into it.
Yeah.
I thought that was like something interesting to think about because that was clearly deliberate.
Well, because I think it's also like, I mean, it's all along the same lines as like putting the shades on. Mm-hmm. It's like, you know, he knows he can't just walk out into the real world just like looking like that. So he knows like he has to look the part. Mm-hmm. Damn, what was I about to say about that? There's going to be something I was going to say about that scene.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, I think the way that this movie starts off, right, we are introduced to the Terminator, who, you know, is sent back in time. And something important to contextualize is even though Skynet or, you know, the machines have taken, have, you know, essentially pushed mankind to the brink, the humans won the war. That's why Skynet and machines sent the Terminator back in time to kill Sarah, so that they could undo that. But they had already lost. And, you know, we see this, you know, Arnold, I mean, who's, you know, not far removed from Conan, this dude, like, great casting. I mean, he's physically imposing in this role. I mean, the dude still looks like he is not too far away. You see, he's still very much clearly bodybuilding.
Which, like, when you mentioned that he wasn't, like, the initial, like, the first choice or anything, I think, like, going with like the big imposing bodybuilder was like the perfect way to go, at least for the first round, like to go as, especially since he's like more of the antagonist. I mean, he is the antagonist. Yeah. But I like how they switch it up in T2 and they go with like Robert Patrick, who doesn't have like the physical imposing. He definitely has the look of a villain and an intimidating antagonist. But, and they're also like telling you this, like, you don't always have to be this big, muscly, imposing dude to, you know, get the job done and whatnot. So I do like how they go that route the first go around, but then they decide to switch it up and everything like that. And it looks like he is a little bit leaner. I'm not gonna
in the second one for sure.
Yeah, I'm not gonna get into like the bodybuilding or like look like that, but he does look a little bit on the leaner side for like the second one. But I do like how they make that switch up. That's a very good nod.
You know, I think one of the things that's really effective about this movie is over the course of it, and actually very early on, we're immediately made aware of how lethal this machine is, and that's made clear over this movie where we see how much damage just one of them can do. I mean, just one T-101 took down an entire police department, and that consisted of what, 30 men, you said?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and here we have Kyle, who is in the present, doesn't have the luxury of the weapons of the future, literally using shotguns and homemade explosives to try to slow this thing down. And it's not an even-handed fight. I mean, what's also frustrating, and also I think worth noting, is how much Sarah gives away where she is just by the phone, and how technology betrays her in those moments. Remember when she leaves the voicemail for her housemate before she, you know, when Terminator literally just gunned her down.
Yeah.
And then again, when she calls her mom and she believes she's talking to her mom, but the Terminator's already gotten to her.
Yeah.
And presumably killed her off screen. You see those examples of just like, you know, it's like when we talk about Pulp Fiction, it's like anytime Vincent Vega goes to the fucking bathroom. It's like anytime Sarah Connor's hop on that phone, it's like bad shit's gonna happen.
Dude, and also like when they do go into like the POV of the Terminator and like the screen is red, yeah. Those scenes like still like it's not like very long range like that. Dude, I like how like it also goes into like the possible like things that he can pretty much say.
Oh yeah.
Like when the dude's knocking at the door being like, "Hey buddy, you got a dead cat in there?" And then it goes to him and he's just like, possible things to say. And one of them is just what he actually says is "fuck off, asshole."
Yeah. It's this heavy accent is just so robotic.
Dude, and
fuck off, asshole.
Which I think like that's why he's also a perfect casting. His accent is still very strong. It sounds very robotic. I mean, even to this day, it almost sounds it's an easy accent to hear nowadays since we've all gotten used to it. But back in the day, it definitely fits that mold of of a robot. But even like when he gets the gun. And he's just like he's asking for like some sort of plasma gun. He's just like, yeah, but
here's what you got. It's what we got.
And then, he's just like, oh, but sorry, buddy, you can't load that in here. Wrong. Just blows his fucking head off. But a quick little thing about even like Expedition, they do a good note of like telling you why he can't even bring weapons like that. And so there's like, well, why won't you just bring like a gun or something you can kill this thing with? And it's just like, well, you can only bring shit that's encased in like human flesh.
You can't bring inorganic matter.
Yeah,
that's what he said. Yeah,
exactly. And it's like that's why they show up butt naked.
He's like, I don't know, I didn't build the fucking thing. You could tell he was like, but why am I talking to you? He was so annoyed because he's like, yo, I've answered every question you have. Like, what are we? I need to talk to Sarah.
Well, that's when the old boy says, just like, he's like, well, I need to talk to Sarah. And he's like, well, that's not up to me. And that's when he just goes off. He's like, oh, what the fuck? What do you mean it's not up to you? Then who do I got to talk to?
Who are you, the janitor? Yo.
All the moments when Kyle Reese gets to shine, bro, there's highlights all over this fucking movie. And we haven't even talked about the precinct yet. When he goes in and he just fucking lays waste to all that.
Oh man, that was impressive. So one thing I read is that this was a source of a point of tension between Cameron and Arnold. So just to be clear, Arnold in this movie, I think I saw that he has 16 lines in this entire movie. So it's a very spare, but obviously very imposing and menacing role that brings a lot of physicality to it.
Yeah.
But initially, Arnold didn't want to say "I'll be back." He didn't want it. I think one of the original lines was "I'll come back," or "I will be back," or something like that. But they ended up contracting it and making it what is now just the iconic line "I'll be back." I mean,
there's two iconic lines in this movie too.
What was
you get the other one, "Come with me if you want to live."
Oh, of course, yeah.
And then they give you they give you it again in the T2, obviously, when they show up at the
asylum.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But Arnold says it this time. That's what I guess that's the nod that lets you know it's like, I'm here to be your protector. So just follow me and everything will be A-okay. Kinda.
Going back to the lighting in this, like they deliberately they shot this at night. It creates that kind of tech noir vibe that he talks about, that Cameron spoke of. It's also the name of the bar where we have really the collision of the Terminator, Sarah, and Kyle at that club. That's a highlight for me, where essentially Kyle was using her as bait so that he could identify who the Terminator was. And just like a machine, the Terminator immediately goes to the phone book and looks up Sarah Connor and began systematically killing all of the Sarahs in the phone book. And
Top to bottom.
Yeah, and that's really what kind of spins this off. Sarah, she is, she got her date bailed on her last minute. So she ends up, she's a waitress. We kind of ground us in her life pretty quickly and effectively. I think it didn't do too much.
Yeah.
They show us when the kid puts the ice cream in her apron.
Oh my God.
Even though she was having one of those days.
I've used to work in the food industry, so I can already tell, like, when you're dealing with kids like that, how it can be. So,
oh yeah,
they do a good job of, like you said, grounding you to, like, just give you an inside look of, like, what her life is. Like, she's just like, don't want to, like, shit on her or make it sound like we're shit on her, but she's just like just a normal person working a normal job, just trying to get by and everything like that, until she's just heavily disrupted by the news station when she's at the bar, because then she ends up going out for a burger since her date bailed. And they say, like, there's a couple of murders linked to a woman named Sarah Connor.
Yeah.
And so that just kind of, pops her little ears up. And from there, it's just pretty much on and popping a little bit.
Yeah, police are trying to get a hold of her. They haven't had any luck. You know, her roommate and her boyfriend are murdered by the Terminator. And with that scene where after he kills her and then he hears the voicemail or the voice message, right, from Sarah, who's at the club, and he starts rifling through her things trying to find a picture of her, which is kind of a mystery that he didn't try that to begin with, but I guess, like, I don't know how he would have, the internet, yeah. Thank God. Otherwise, Skynet would be unstoppable.
Dude, two quick things too is like when the cops are talking about the murders, man, he says something. I didn't write it down or anything, but he says like the woman or the woman was shot like 16 times or just a crazy amount of times where I was just like, God damn. I mean, they call you the Terminator, but holy shit. Like,
I love your work, huh?
I'm not leaving nothing to be identified. But then the second thing is, man, there's always something about people in movies when they start making sandwiches. They always make these like fucking these like Scooby-Doo fucking type sandwiches. They always look so goddamn good on the movie.
I can never make mine like that.
Dude, she's making the goddamn thing, and like you see her, she's coming out, she's got all the tools in her fucking like little wrapped up in her arms and everything. And she's even like drumming the fucking celery, got peanut butter. Like she's making a midnight snack. But it's like every time I always see like food, there's always something about food on film.
Yeah.
There's something with that. It's like watching The Sopranos, and like whenever I was eating like in the Italian restaurants, I'm like, God, that shit just always looks good. I could go for some of that gabagool right now.
Say, where's that?
Yeah.
Is that Jersey?
Can I Uber eat that?
Yeah, you know, one of my favorite scenes is the nightclub scene. We talked about this earlier. I think when the Terminator first walks in, first of all, he fucked that bouncer up. He's like, hey, he didn't pay.
Yo, my
Yo, he didn't even turn his head all the way. He was like, hey, get your hand off me.
bro, he got his hand broke for $450.
For real. You need to think about a new job. Find a work.
It's like, hey, buddy, like, oh shit, you got your hand completely.
There it goes. I heard a crack.
Well, I mean, I guess he just got off easy because otherwise he could have got his heart ripped out like oh boy at the beginning. So
man, that was
I guess he got off
gruesome.
easy.
Yo, I love the opening dialogue in the beginning. He's supposed to say, he said, what did he say? Nothing clean. Laundry day. Nothing clean.
Who, Bill Paxton said that?
No, the other guy, the one who played Buffalo Bill, you said, and Joe Dirt.
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
Yo, I can't remember. I can't even remember that. He actually had a line?
Yeah.
I just remember Bill Paxton, and I was just kind of like caught off guard with when I saw
It's
that.
so funny. He's like, I think this guy's short a couple of six packs or something like that. What did he say? Something like that? The line. But that scene is pretty funny. But when Reese unloads on, well, just before Reese unloads on the Terminator, I love the actual camera work where we see the Terminator raising the gun with the laser pointer, which was actually something that Arnold had to actually trigger because it was like a control. But he raises the gun, and we see the glare from his when we're looking at him, and then we see from her perspective, but all we can see is that blinding red light.
Yeah,
that was a highlight for me. I thought that was such a good scene. And then of course Reese just fucking loads on him with the shotgun.
dude. Well, like it almost looks like, I mean, granted, I think also she is frozen with fear in a way,
Yeah.
but the way like the camera's working, like she's looking at like it looks like she's looking at Reese, and then like you see the Terminator come through the crowd and everything. Like the Terminator's looking at her, and then she's like looking at Reese, and Reese is looking. Dude, they're working like a fucking triangle because he's looking at her, she's looking at him, he's looking at him.
She thinks Reese is the killer.
Yeah,
that's
like,
why she went into the bar.
When you cut back to Reese, like his point of view, or like what he's doing, like when he turns around with the shotgun, you can kind of see her
That trench coat.
You can kind of see that Sarah is still looking at Reese while the
Through the
Terminator.
mirror.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, she's not like completely dumbfounded. But granted, I mean, nobody knows what they would do until a gun is pointed at you. You can be like, "Oh, I'll go all fucking Jet Li on your ass," huh? But until a fucking pistol is pointed at you with a red dot, man. And Arnold Schwarzenegger, not Arnold, but a Terminator looking dude like that is holding the.
Let's talk it out.
I know, like, hey man, it's even like the when they go through the precinct. I mean, the cop is just like trying to fire off at him, and he's obviously seeing there's no prevail, and then he just literally tries to turn around. It's like, bro, there's nowhere you can run. No. He's got a shotgun and like a fucking like an AR or something like that. I forgot what he has in both of his hands. You ain't going nowhere. You think you're gonna be able to do a complete 180 and get the fuck out of here? Nah,
it ain't happening.
It ain't happening. So I don't blame Sarah for being frozen, even if she did get a glance at him.
Well, what I was gonna say was, there's a couple highlights that I want to point out in that follows from the scene. There's one, like the evolution of the way we see like her relationship with Reese unfold, where she's extremely fearful and skeptical of him. She thinks he's insane at first, and then by the end we see. Like this was somebody that she actually grew to love, despite the short amount of time they were together. Yeah. I think seeing that develop over the course of the movie was a highlight in and of itself for me. Mm-hmm. But also, what follows after this is the car chase scenes. I think that all the car chase scenes are so much fun. Like when they end up ditching the car in the parking garage and the Terminator goes there. When they're driving side by side and they're just loading shotguns at each other, I'm just like, oh my God. And then they're doing this in like, they get out of there and they're doing this in the fucking public street. I was like, yo, imagine like just seeing this, like, yo, this is insane. Dude, he's like Mad Max.
Well, that's where they got the inspiration. Road Warrior, right? Dude, he's even like just like taking the shotgun over fucking Sarah's like over her little like line of view and everything, the shoot out of her window, trying to get the Terminator. Dude, something that was like, I will say like it's not a low, but it's just kind of funny. It almost takes you out of it away, but it's like some of Arnold's facial expressions. Like whether it's like him shooting the gun or even like when he turns,
he's like moving his head. Yo, that was so good
in the club when he's like, he's like bobbing and weaving with the fucking pistol and everything. Some of his like, he is a fucking menace. He's terrifying and definitely like and all that. But funny. Some of his facial expressions, even when like he's on the roof of the car. And like he's about to punch through the fucking windshield, dude. You see his face, and he's just like he almost has that bitter beer face. He's just like.
To be fair, he was on fire as well in that scene.
Yeah, he was. Like that's why it's getting hard to judge it on that because like the effects and everything they're definitely going very grounded with like the effects. They're not doing anything like too fake or anything.
Yeah.
But so it's hard to just keep a stoic face and everything like that. But it's just still kind of funny.
Yeah.
It doesn't take you out of it too much. It's not gonna it doesn't ruin it or anything like that.
Well, I mean, it's like the fuck you asshole. Like there are those moments that does have a little bit of levity to it, but you're still like whenever you see him, you're like, okay, we're in danger.
Well, like speaking of like the fire, it's like when like the semi truck crashes. I'm guessing that was a stunt person in like a flammable suit or whatever like that, because it looked like somebody was like in one, and then they just kind of fall down, sit there. I'm sure that was a real person doing that stunt.
Yeah,
not sure who it was. Shout out to them, but I mean the effects, like I said, they were just huge highlight for me.
Yeah, I mean, anytime the more detail we see of the actual the Terminator exoskeleton, the more detail we see, whether it's the bathroom scene that we talked about earlier, or of course the very end, which we'll get to, or even after after the car accident during the chase scene, where we see a lot more of the exoskeleton, and to me, like, those are some of the highlights for me. I thought that it really added to the sense of like dread and like the horror undertones of this movie. This is a really bleak movie. I mean, I know we talked about this, and I think it's the tone that I think really works for me. I mean, it ends on it doesn't end. I mean, one of the last lines of the movie is like, yeah, there's a storm coming, and yeah, they're not out of the woods.
No.
They just preserve things as they needed to be for the future to flow the way that it did. Other than that, like, the worst is still to come.
Well, as if you do follow along with the story, they pretty much still set up their impending future, because the arm that was crushed and all that type of stuff and the chip from the brain of the Terminator is still preserved, and that's exactly what they used to propel like into the second movie and all that.
I mean,
that's why they end up going after the brother,
the Cyberdyne, the guy who was like really spearheading that R&D.
God, that part of that movie was so fucking good.
Oh man, yeah, that's a great scene. But I mean, dude, like, again, that goes back to like the bootstrap paradox, right? It's like, it's because this machine is sent back and that she defeats it. It's the fact that the remnants of that machine are there that spurs the research and the technological development of the machines to begin with. And it's just like, God damn, can we get a break?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's it. Like, Skynet will just still keep turning along.
Yeah.
Man, one. I mean, it is part of the movie, but it's not necessarily the movie itself. A big thing I think that's iconic about this movie is just some of just the pop culture stuff, as far as like the movie poster and anything that you could do with like merch and stuff like that.
Oh, the action figures were fun. Dude. I remember having those.
Even just comparing just like the poster to like the Terminator to T2. The first Terminator has it easily, hands down. It might be simple and everything, but just the red light with Arnold holding the fucking gun, him with the leather jacket on with the shades, bro, that shit looks fucking sick, man.
And it's really simple too, actually. I mean, there's not a lot going on in the background. You have like the black background with the red rays of light, and then you have the gun, and yeah, I mean the actual the font that's over his shades. Very simplistic, but just so fucking iconic, dude.
Dude, that's where I mean, there's nothing, I guess, wrong with the Terminator 2 poster. You know, it's just got Arnold on there on his.
It's just not as good.
It's just, but like when I think of an iconic poster, at least as far as like the Terminator goes, that's the one I always think of. I always think of the first Terminator.
I mean, the T2 one is fucking fire, to be clear. I don't want to.
Still fun.
I mean, him over that fucking motorcycle with the shoddy.
But if I was gonna put a poster, like if we had one up in the studio or like a studio or something like that, it'd be Terminator. It'd be the first one for me.
Yeah, it would be Terminator. The first Mad Max one is fucking Fuego. The Evil Dead, the original Evil Dead poster.
Yeah. There's a bunch of Mad Max posters that could be.
Jaws, come on, let's get it out.
I mean,
there.
It is iconic.
I know you hated it with it. I know you did.
Okay,
I would add fucking Nightmare on Elm Street's first one, actually. With the fucking claws over her when she's in bed.
They have like changed that up. Because like,
wait, I thought that was original.
No, well, I mean, they just changed up the like the chick. I want to say like the original Nightmare on Elm Street one, like that the female that they used, that looked nothing like Heather Langenkamp.
No, it didn't.
But like I think they switched it up to make it look more like her, because everybody's like, who the fuck is this woman? But
the OG one was fire though.
Yeah. If you had to put 3 movie posters up, which one are you gonna choose?
3 movie posters up?
Not going with your Pulp Fiction?
No, the Pulp Fiction one is great, but it's not up there. I don't think it's up there with. I don't know about that. Yeah, I don't know that's up there with them. 3 posters. Damn. Let me think about that. What about you? We got 3? Which 3 would you do?
Man, I think I probably would have the Terminator on there. Damn, I don't know. I was looking at the Terminator posters and I just kind of brought to my mind. Man, Aliens. I don't know about that.
Alien and Aliens, I don't remember them being that good. No, Alien Romulus one, that one's fire. That poster is actually really fire.
With the
facehugger on her?
Yeah, that one is dope. Man, when it comes to that, we might have to we might have to put a pin in that and just come back to that one.
If I'm just thinking off top right now, I would say Jaws. That's just so iconic for me. I also would say, actually, I think I do have my 3. I would say that one, Jaws, Evil Dead, the original poster, and
Man, I remember I wouldn't have it, but the Silence of the Lamb one always interested me. Like every time I saw that when I was younger, I'll be like, "What the fucking movie is this?" It was always weird with like the woman with like the little looks like a bee or some sort of insect on her mouth.
Mm-hmm.
That cover was always just like,
Oh
weird.
yeah, that one was pretty good. That is a pretty iconic one. Yeah,
maybe Jurassic Park.
That's iconic. Absolutely.
I've never seen it, but the Blade Runner poster is pretty dope too. I don't know if I'd have any Marvel posters, honestly. Marvel doesn't really do it for me as far as like the movie posters.
Yeah, dude, we could spend a lot of time on that one. There's some pretty cool ones out there. I do like the
Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
That's pretty dope. That's pretty classic. You know what one I actually would have up there? It's just a favorite personal of mine. Taxi Driver.
That's a movie I've never seen.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
well, I mean, it's on our list. That's that's one of my favorites of all time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's early Scorsese, young De Niro. Fascinating movie. Great character study movie.
That's a good one. Even I like Do the Right
Back to the
Thing.
Future.
That's a good one too.
Do the Right Thing.
Man, yeah, we could spend a whole episode on talking about movie posters.
Oh, true.
But Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like who will survive and what will be left of them. That's an iconic poster. It has like Leatherface, the chick is like tied up and shit. That's an iconic horror poster.
The Ju-on one's pretty good.
Yeah, that's another good one.
I wouldn't have that in my house though. I have to be clear. Put it on my wall.
Dude, Black Klansman is good. It's got the black dude.
Yeah,
that's a great one. I like that one.
Damn,
but we're getting
we're in the weeds. We are in the weeds.
Well, I know we've talked about a lot of highlights. Are there any lowlights as far as Terminator goes?
I guess
you want to be nitpicky on before we get to scores.
Picky on.
Because I know I talked about the it's just like, some of the effects might be a little bit outdated in some parts where you can definitely tell when like they were using prosthetics and stuff like that. But
I don't know that I would say that's nitpicking, because that's just an acknowledgement of what it is. You know what I mean? Like like that movie is very much a product of its time, both in terms of some of the themes that it deals with, which I do think have a lot of resonant like staying power.
Yeah.
But then like the special effects, like the animatronics in certain scenes, like the when he removes the eye. Yeah, I mean, it just is what it is with that one.
And it just gets better from there, honestly. From Terminator to T2, the effects are still great in the first one, but they just get even better, because even when Arnold starts getting fucked up by the T-1000 at the end.
Dude, that was really well done makeup.
Yeah, that looks great.
I mean, that just shows you, dude, the guy that Stan Winston, man, special makeup effects artist, man. There's a reason why he got his first Academy Award, working with Cameron. I think he worked with him in Terminator 1, 2, and Alien. So this dude he's nice. He's nice with it.
Yeah, it's always funny, like having hindsight and everything like that, but how we were talking about James Cameron and how people just like, doing this movie like, I don't know, man. I don't know if it's going to be successful. And now look at him. It's like, the top 3 movies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it's just like, don't even question him. Just like, how much you want? Blank check.
My God. Yeah, one of the few directors who could easily just walk in and just do whatever the fuck he wants, however he wants, whenever he wants.
For sure. I would think him and Spielberg and I wonder if Jordan Poole is getting to that point, because I think all of his movies have been successful. No.
Yeah, but I don't think
I'm not saying he's to that degree, but I bet he gets. I wonder if he gets a lot of leeway. Maybe not. I don't know, because he hasn't missed.
No, not quite, but he still has got a ways to go if he wants to be up to that. I mean, because like,
he's not going. I mean, he's not in their league. I'm not saying that.
Like, did you say Spielberg?
Yeah, definitely Spielberg.
Maybe even like maybe a Tarantino, just because like all of his especially because like his next movie's allegedly going to be his last movie and all that. Who knows about that? That's like musicians saying they're going to retire and then they put out 6 more albums after that.
Yeah, that could be his kingdom come, like Jay-Z's, right? I'm back. I hope not.
I think you need to go back and redo that one. That's the one with the red cover, isn't it?
Yeah, there's some good tracks on there, but Black Album was just better for me.
That's my favorite Jay-Z album.
Really? I say, oh man, Black Album, Reasonable Doubt, and American Gangster. Those are my 3 favorites.
Those are all great. Those are all good.
Something that we talked about the highlights of the police department scene where Arnold comes back and fucking unleashes havoc at that police department. But one thing I definitely really want to highlight is the chase scene at the very end after the car crash, and all we see now is the metallic exoskeleton that's chasing them. Very Michael Myers kind of vibe. That to me was like, okay, we're in the horror movie right now. One thing I definitely wanted to point about this is like, the use of stop motion during the chase at the end, where we see, the endoskeleton, courtesy of Fantasy 2 Effects. They fucking bodied this. I also read that they took, it took about a year for them to create a 6'2" prop used in the factory chase scene. It had over 1,000 chrome parts, like moving parts, and the head and the eyes were actually remote controlled.
Damn.
The details when we get those close-ups of the eyes as he's trying to track where Reese and Sarah are, really great work. The scene where he's walking up to the door as they shut it, dude, I mean, this scene is just, it's just so fun and cool and scary to watch.
Dude, even when like as soon as you get towards like the endish of the chase, when he's got him cornered, you're just like, oh fuck, dude. I'm just like, oh, like I know how it ends and everything, but I'm streaming this like, move your ass, what are you doing? But then Reese just
sacrifices
he ends up
himself.
making the sacrifice. I knew he was gonna die, but I was just like, oh, he kind of.
I feel like he could have.
He got away enough. I was like, I don't know if that exposure got him enough, but
yeah. Oh man, that scene. Yeah, and when she's crawling away after after he's been, well, first of all, when Reese has that rod and it's coming at him and he's swinging at it, like the actual work of seeing like the collision of the pole against the Terminator, that was really cool. When he's actually crawling after her, that like was such a just very suspenseful scene.
Well, it's just like like fucking Undertaker from WWE or some shit. It's just like,
what
dude,
will
you
it take?
cannot kill this fucking thing, man, and it just keeps on coming after her. Like the thing's been blown up now, and it's in like you only just see the upper half, and it only has one arm, and it's just crawling after her.
Still lethal.
Yeah, exactly. And granted, it is still lethal even after it's been crushed to death.
Yeah,
as it leads to T2.
Yep. Dude, I mean, we talked about some of our highlights, talked about some of the actual soundtrack. I guess a question now, we're talking about legacy, thinking about legacy of this movie. Where do you fall between T1 and T2?
Like which one's better?
Yeah, where do you fall on that?
Oh, I think T2 is definitely better.
Definitely better. Okay.
Definitely better. Okay. Just because I think, well, like, of course, like when like how I mentioned with the score, like I'll give the nod to T1 just because it did it first and everything. But I feel like they just even up the ante even a bit more in T2. Like you even got like, you didn't think you could get maybe an even better antagonist or even more just like a killing machine more than Arnold in the first one. And I think the T1 Robert Patrick as a T1000 just got even more menacing. And it's like, would I rather have Arnold's Terminator or the T1000 coming after me? It's like, I think I take my chances with Arnold, honestly. Because it was
the shape shifting too. I mean, being able to take on other people.
And they show that you could freeze that motherfucker. You could do everything you did with the first Terminator, and it just came back even way worse and faster.
Yeah.
And you see him when he's hauling ass on his feet when he's chasing after John Connor on the motorcycle.
I think he was definitely more dangerous of a Terminator than the first one.
Like I think I liked Arnold as the protector a little bit more because I guess like we were mentioning how like that emotional impact towards the end. Spoiler alert, when he meets his doom again, when he's going down to the lava with the thumbs up and all that type of stuff. I think it just from T1 it built a great foundation for a great franchise, and T2 just built a fucking mansion on top of that great foundation.
Yeah, I think the chase scenes. I mean, man, I don't know. I was gonna say, are the chase scenes in T1 better? Because I think that the one that's definitely probably maybe the best of the two is the when the T1000's in the helicopter. But
Well, I don't know.
outside of that one, though, all the other car chase scenes, I think Terminator 1 has those.
Really? I think Terminator 2 with the when he's chasing him at the beginning. It literally went right in my brain and just went right out of my brain.
Where he takes John and puts him on his motorcycle?
Yeah, that one. To me, I think that one's like really iconic. It did you like when he's just cruising around on his fucking on his bike and everything. Like I said, the T1000 is just like chasing after him, but then he ends up getting into the fucking into the vehicle, into that little semi truck, and he's driving that motherfucker off like the little bridge and everything like that. And then Arnold comes in like that, dude. Like even like when he's coming through the mall and everything, just the whole setup, everything.
Oh well, that I'm talking about the setup. Yeah, that was great. I'm talking about the actual when they're on the motorcycle in the car. Because like to me, the one where fucking Reese and the Terminator are just trading shotgun shots. That's such a fun scene. I was like, this is what. And then at the very end, when he's chasing on the motorcycle and then he gets in the semi, I thought that was a really, really dope. That's another one of my favorite car scenes.
Well, maybe I'm holding T2 and like I haven't watched it in a little while. I like off the top of my mind, I think I would give it to T2. But the
helicopter scene was so good.
I mean, it's that's iconic. Then you have Arnold bringing out that big ass fucking machine gun.
Oh yeah,
dude.
Yeah. Oh, when they're. Yeah, I mean, I hear you. I think to me though, this Terminator 1 holds a special place in my heart because of the horror themes of it. It definitely, Halloween is I love that movie, and I definitely can see the influence here. So I think with the horror, and also like the fact that it's just a little bit grittier, and it's darker because it was shot at night as well for most of this. And I think like that just feeds the mood of this movie in a way that I think surpasses what Terminator does on that front. Because there's nothing really horrifying. Well, I'm not gonna say that. I think that the horror notes or tones of this movie are better and stronger than the ones in Terminator 2.
Oh, easily. I mean, if you're going on those notes, like, because that's just what it leans more into.
Yeah.
It leans more into just like almost like a cat and mouse just type of chase. It's just like one object. I mean, granted, you could say that about T2, but they liven it up a little bit more.
Yeah, they definitely do. And like to me, like that's also what is really endearing about that one, like the bond between John and the Terminator. But
you get I mean, to me, like I said, I mean, I would prefer T2 as the overall
me too
movie because I mean, you're
ultimately me too. Yeah,
you're getting Sarah Connor now. She's more of a badass in T2. I mean, granted, she is a little bit on the crazy side, I guess, because nobody believes her.
But those hospital scenes were so great because we see like what the fuck happened to her. She's going through what Reese was going through,
and you see just how capable she is too.
Huh?
How capable?
Oh yeah,
that's why like he needs to be on lockdown.
MacGyver.
Not really. And then you get John Connor. Arnold is the protector. So you're getting this father-son relationship with
True.
them too.
Okay.
The T1000 is a great antagonist.
Definitely. Okay, but I do gotta say this. The acting in Terminator 1 across the board is better. In T2, Edward Furlong is not a good actor. Let's just be real.
Is he the Andy?
He's not a good actor. He does an okay job, but let's be real, he's not.
Well, I mean, I guess that's why he hasn't probably been in much.
I mean, he was in this and American History X, and I don't know what happened after that. Those are the only two movies that I know of. Actually, no, did he come back for one of the later Terminator movies? Am I tripping? Okay, I didn't know if he did.
I mean, the character of John Connor, of course, but he was digitally brought back.
Oh, okay.
In, Dark Fate.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, like,
but then they killed him in like the first.
If I'm being honest, I think he is a weak point acting wise in this, and I don't think I know that he's a weak point actor wise in Terminator 2. In Terminator 1, nothing stands out in any comparable way as far as the main actors.
No, well, I don't think anybody does like a poor job.
No,
as far as like their role and everything like that.
Yeah. So that's one thing I do have to point out. But
I'll give you that one.
I mean, yeah. Do you have anything else, or do you want to pivot to scores?
No, I think I'm ready to pivot to scores. Want me to start off?
I don't mind. Yeah, go. Shoot.
I'm not going to beat around the bush. This movie for me gets a 4.5. It is a damn near perfect film for me. There's not many lows that I can really pick at. If you want to be nitpicky, then we could be nitpicky. But there's nothing that will stand out that will make you really want to turn this movie off. Honestly, you're along for the ride for the whole runtime. I would give it a 5, but I would save that 5 for T2. So that is a spoiler alert. I don't give too many 5s around, but whenever we do review T2, regarding that movie somehow switches up my viewpoint somehow, I would give that one movie a 5. But Terminator, everything about it, score, cast, the acting, the effects, the endoskeleton, the red eye, the bathroom scene, the police precinct, the car chase. There's so many highlights. Too much to talk about. This episode's going so long, and we got some shit that we're high on later on. So stick around for that. But 4.5 for me. Man,
listen, I'll keep it brief. 4.5 for me as well. I love this movie. I can rewatch this movie quite a bit. Not as much as I don't think I can rewatch it as much as the first one, just because like the comedic aspects of that one. Like, are you calling moi a dipshit? It's very quotable as well. You also get more range from Arnold in the Terminator, the T-101, just because it's you see more range in that character versus this one, which is, like we said earlier, really it's very minimalistic role line wise. It's more of the physicality of the role that stands out in the first one. But yeah, 4.5 from me. Nice. Man, what are you high on? What's on the radar?
I have 2 things that I'm very high on, and they're 2 movies. And I'm also, a little quick side note, I'm still high on The Penguin. I know we're recording this on a Sunday when they're airing the season finale. So as soon as they do that, I'm about to get started on that season, or that series, I should say. But the first movie I'm high on is, actually, I think they're both Netflix movies too. The first one is It's What's Inside. Have you heard that?
I've heard of that.
That's when like these like group of friends are like meeting up, and then like this dude has a device and they're able to like to connect each other to it, and then he hits a button and they're able to like switch bodies. Mm-hmm. Oh. So like, dude, it's like a cool concept. It like had like hints of like Talk to Me in a way for it, just because. Okay. Just like the way like they're like getting inside somebody else's body, like being possessed in a certain way. They're not possessed. They're just, switching bodies. But at a certain point, I was just like, I wonder what would happen if this thing happened. And as soon as I was thinking that, it just happens. Oh, damn. And from there, you're like, oh shit. You could probably kind of hint to what I'm getting at. It's a fun movie. It's a movie you can't get too high on because they do a good job of like wearing little Polaroids of like who's in whose body. Who? Yeah, so you don't get too lost in anything like that. But you can't really be like, going on your phone and all that type of stuff. Otherwise, you might get a little lost. Just fair warning for that. Second movie I'm high on is Woman of the Hour, directed by Anna Kendrick. She's also starring in the movie as well. I think this is her directorial debut as well. And like for her first outing, man, this movie was great. It was about to lose me in the fourth quarter though. Like the last like about 10, maybe 15 minutes of it or whatever. First I was like, if this movie ends how it's about to end, I'm about to be pissed. Because no fucking way this is about to end that way. And because I heard it was loosely based on it, or not loosely, but I heard it was based on a true story. Okay. But I didn't know the ins and outs of the true story at all, so I had no idea how this was going to end. But it was going one way, and I was like about to be like, this movie's fucking stupid. And it didn't go that way. So I was like, thank God, because the movie's fantastic. And I'm just glad it did not end how I thought it was about to end. So Woman of the Hour, definitely check that out. It's What's Inside. Definitely check that one out as well. Both on Netflix.
It looks like it has like a talk show vibe similar to Late Night with the Devil.
They had some of those vibes, especially like when they switched the aspect ratio and they go into like how it's supposed to look on like the TV. Like it looks very small and all that stuff. Dude, that scene when like she's interviewing like 3 contestants and everything like that, it's hilarious. It's great because they get into like the host. The host's name is Ed, and they bring up the makeup artist to like to help her out like in between takes and all that when they're like cut. And so they come up to her and she's doing the makeup to her. And Anna's just like, her character is just like, I'm just feeling like kind of nervous because I guess there's specific questions that the host wants her to ask the dudes. And she's just like, I don't really want to ask these questions. And the makeup artist is just like, girl, you're only here for one time. It's not like they're going to bring you back for another episode. So just have fun with it. Ask what you want to have. You're the one that's going to go on this date anyway. So from that point, she's like, all right. And she just starts having fun with it. Yeah. Starts asking the contestants, they're starting to have their own little conversations. But it's because, the premise of it is like she ends up going on the date with like a murderer. And so,
a serial killer, right?
Yeah, like a serial killer.
Damn.
And it's kind of showing you like him leading up to like the date and all that type of stuff and like what he's about and all that. And like I said, like I thought it was going to end. I'm like, no fucking way this dude is about to.
No spoilers.
Yeah, I'm saying no spoilers, but no way I thought this dude was about to like do what I thought was going to happen.
Yeah.
And then it does. I'm like, oh, thank God. Because I was about to butcher that fucking movie. That went from like a 4 to like a 2.
So I'm going to have to go to the internet and...
It's a good, both those movies are fucking dope. I watched those over the weekend. So.
Okay.
What you high on, man?
Man, I'm high right now on. I am high right now. Durbon Poison. So meanwhile on Earth, this is A24 joint that's dropping. I'm sorry. This isn't A24. My mistake. The next one I'm thinking of is this is it's a French movie about this. Young girl who is contacted by an unknown life form, claiming to be able to bring her older brother back. Her older brother was an astronaut who literally just vanished in space, and so she ends up being contacted by these aliens, and kind of gave me a little bit of like maybe Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but it's a sci-fi movie. Really looking forward to seeing that. That's coming out this month. And the other one is an A24 joint, and that's Baby Girl. This is with Nicole Kidman. It's kind of billed as like a erotic thriller, but I saw the trailer when I went to see Saturday Night recently, and I was thinking, holy shit, this movie looks wild. I was like, I'm definitely gonna check this out. But that's dropping in December, and one thing I do want to point out, as we're kind of thinking about what to review for the rest of this month, for those of you who didn't know, I didn't know this either until maybe a week ago. November is also referred to as Noirvember, and it's an opportunity to, indulge in noir, either literature or movies, and that's something we want to pepper in throughout the rest of this month. Take a look at maybe one or maybe even 2 noir movies just to kind of pay homage to that genre. And we're thinking about both neo-noir as well as more traditional noir. But so far I think we're considering strongly considering Sin City at least.
Yes.
But that'd be a very fun movie to both review and make a video for. But yeah, that's what we got next coming up next.
Sure.
Yeah, appreciate y'all for joining us on another episode of 5 on It. We'll catch y'all next time.
Peace.